call to order.
This is the
Board of
ordinance.
Directors meeting, organizational meeting. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Which agenda are we on?
Andy,
Yes.
question. Don't we have to have a Columbia Council meeting as well?
Yes, after. It's after.
Oh, really? I thought it was
Yeah.
before. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it comes right after this one. We've got this meeting and another meeting. Approval of the agenda. Is someone going to? Lynn, move we approve the agenda. Is there a second? Renee seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Is that unanimous? Residents speak out.
Well,
Welcome, Greg.
Hi, Alan.
Hello.
As he's talking to his wife at home.
All right, thanks, everybody. Sorry, it's been a busy day. I did want to come in and just talk about a couple things that are important to this meeting because they're what's before you. First has to do with the slate of corporate officers that staff has proposed for the board's approval. The board will note that there's a change this year. For the first time, the general counsel is no longer an officer. General counsel is ordinarily and customarily the secretary. I don't want to get into this too deeply in this open meeting, but I think it's clear this change, in my view, is being made for an illegitimate reason. And I think I'm asking the board to amend the slate to add back the general counsel as a secretary. Again, the customary role in a corporation and in this corporation. If staff has a valid reason for removing the general counsel from secretary, and I don't think there is one, I think there's going to be a pretext for it, that's fine. But if there is something that the board thinks is a valid reason for this removal, fine. Go ahead and approve the slate, but approve it with the reservation of the right to treat the general counsel as an officer for purposes of the bylaws. Okay? Now, if staff has a valid reason, then there should be no objection to this. Okay? Again, I don't want to belabor this, but that's what my first request is. My second point has to do with something called capture. This is a legal term. Often it's called regulatory capture. It's what happens, what can occur between a regulated entity and its regulator. You often hear it in the context of banks and bank examiners. It's what can occur at a corporation when its regulator becomes too close to the corporation and essentially starts making decisions not in the best interest of the corporation, but in the best interest just to agree with the entity that it's regulating. In this case, it's what can occur between this corporation and its only oversight authority, which is you. Capture is not necessarily corruption or control of the board or of the bank examiners by the corporation. It's a subtle, very subtle thing, often a psychological bias on the part of the regulator or the watchdog. It's a bias in favor of the entity it supervises. It's from becoming too familiar with the corporation or the bank. We often see the regulator has been captured when he's in the state of being persuaded, not by the merits of what's before that regulator, not by what's right or wrong, but by the close relationship with the regulated entity. It's reflected in passivity. It's reflected in reactivity. It's reflected in a lack of inquisitiveness. It's reflected in an unwillingness to confront problems. It's reflected in a willingness to go along to get along. This is why every federal banking regulator has policies requiring rotation. That is, examiners must, if the examiners in charge of these examinations, must rotate out of that position onto another bank every 3 to 5 years. It doesn't matter, you don't have to prove anything. That's just a policy. That's the way healthy organizations work. That's the way you have a healthy relationship between a corporation and the oversight body, which again in this case is you. This is why in this case I put my specific reasons why I think a new chair is particularly urgent this year. But just if you don't want to harp on those reasons, you can at least just say, you know what, healthy organizations, healthy oversight organizations rotate out that position periodically. And again, on the bank side, it's every 3 or 5 years. It is time in this organization, and it is time for me to shut up. So if there are no other questions,
Any
thank you
questions
very
for
much.
Greg?
I do.
Alan?
Two questions, Greg. Could you say a couple more words? I'm not familiar with corporations in this close corporate board, but are you asserting that it is standard procedure in corporations for the general counsel to serve as secretary of the corporation?
The corporations I've seen, yes, but I'm not
Okay.
I'm not a corporate expert. Okay, I've just seen the ones that I run into every now and then, so I can't make that general statement that you're saying. But I can say the ones that I've seen as far as what their boards do, it is.
Okay. I wasn't familiar with that, so thank you for that. Second question, is it your reading of the bylaws that the board's power to remove an officer would include the removal if that officer had another position within the corporation to remove, or would to remove from that position, or just to remove that remove that person from being an officer?
The bylaws are, hold on, I'm almost there. Bylaws state, section 4.11, any officer or agent of the corporation may be removed by the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members of the board of directors. So to me, there's no limitation on that. I don't think it's open to interpretation, and I will tell you, in my world, if you're going to remove someone, that's firing them.
Even though they may wear two hats, in this case, an officer position as well as an employee position.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not. Thanks, Greg.
Best of luck, everybody. I will, in some ways, miss this place.
Well, now we can start holding meetings at 7.
Haven't we been?
Poor Janet. Says Janet that struggles to get here.
Okay, next thing, election of chair and vice chair. We do have procedures
Andy?
set up. Yes, Alan?
Point of personal privilege, I guess. I hadn't even thought about, since I'm here, the question of voting. Is it all right with the board if I email my votes to, I guess, Renee, since I've got her, we've been emailing back and forth with the pictures, and Renee can submit for me?
Yeah, is that acceptable? I mean,
That
I was going to say either that or email it to like Janet or somebody, but
I can send it to her.
Is it a secret ballot? Or
5 pages.
it's a secret ballot.
That's what it says in the,
Did she email to the person reading?
well, I'll just
Secret
forward it. I
ballots?
won't read it.
Yes, you should email to the person, to
Janet.
Janet.
Right.
Whoever is receiving
I'll just
the
email it to her. I'll just
the
forward it.
ballots.
No, that's not what
I'd be happy to, whichever. I just knew that Renee had her email available.
Yeah,
So
but
just tell me who to email it to.
you're right.
I think everything should go to the person who's receiving the ballots. I think
So-
would be,
Janet, could you,
Alan,
Yes.
I'm sure he has her.
would you like my personal email address?
I'd like whatever email address I should use to email to you.
If I may,
yeah.
Jackie, do you have your email? I have my computer. Alan.
Yeah.
Alan,
Yes?
would you email your vote to Jackie? She's in the audience and she has a laptop with her. Just send it to her Columbia Association email address.
that's not the person.
Let me just make sure I've got that.
Milton, that's not the person who's collecting the ballots.
Well, the president and CEO actually collect the ballots,
Yeah,
and
he
then I
does.
count them with an officer
right. He
of
collects.
the way the document reads.
It goes to Milton.
Yeah, I just don't.
He doesn't have
Jackie,
it.
what's your
He doesn't have
CA
it.
email address?
Oh, I see.
You could log in on my computer. Do you want to use my computer? So that
Yeah.
you can see?
I just want to get Alan's vote.
But-
I
so let's just do it. I mean,
I
if you
trust
don't mind
Jackie to just
doing that.
just provide it to me.
That's fine. Either way, or I can log on.
Well, why don't you just fill out the ballot on his behalf?
Here's the- I think that makes
No, I mean,
Yeah,
she's
Yeah,
on
that
the
way,
audit
right.
committee.
right, she's on the audit committee.
You can't
Is that
post it
okay,
on-
Alan?
Yeah, right.
It's fine. Jackie, what is your email address?
It's Jackie.Tuma.
Thank you.
We could just make it an open election with no secret ballots.
That's not,
No, that's
the
not.
organizational thing doesn't allow for that.
Oh, okay, that's, no more
All right.
transparency, okay.
Thanks, Alan.
I'm kidding.
All right, election of the chair. Any nominations?
Well, before I make any
Yep.
nominations, I just wanted to say that Greg just left. I just wanted to make a very brief statement that I do believe, I know it's not happening because we've essentially had the chair's election this year. And I think Andy's done a wonderful job. He's got a lot of knowledge and background. But I think that for the health and well-being of the organization, moving forward, because it's too late for this year, that please everybody think about and consider that we need to have a new chair at the head of this organization. It is not anything discriminatory against Andy or what he's done, but I firmly believe that we need to consider that we need new leadership, that it is healthy for an organization, and that I have sent out pleas to the board because I think we need change. Change can be very healthy, and I would like people to consider taking a leadership role. I'm done.
I'd like to nominate Andy for chair.
I second.
Any other nominations?
You want to run?
No, thank you.
I'm just offering.
All right. I know it's been some controversy, but thank you very much, and I will definitely try to improve. I hope I have actually improved since last year on some of the things. And Nancy does make some good points, and we'll have to talk about it. But people do have to be willing to kind of, it's a lot of work. But thank you very much.
Do we have to vote?
No, because there's only one.
No, okay, I just want to.
All right. Vice Chair. Are there any nominations for Vice Chair? Nancy.
Ginny Thomas.
Second.
Okay. Any other? Renee.
I'll nominate Dick Bolton.
All right.
I didn't hear the first nomination.
Jenny?
Ginny
Thank you.
and Dick has been nominated.
Thank you.
All right. Ginny, would you like to say a few words? I mean, and then usually what we do is we ask people if they have any questions then for the nominees.
Sure. I didn't prepare a speech, lucky you.
Can you speak into the mic? I know. But we have Alan on the phone.
If elected, one of the first things I will do is resolve this issue of the microphone, okay? For not only our sake, but that of the audience and the people on wherever you are,
I can
Alan.
assure you it's being resolved.
No, he took my campaign speech.
Oh. Well, you can just
First
add another one.
promise
You
checked
can add
off.
another one to the campaign speech now.
And I will achieve it within,
By the end of June.
by the end of June. Thank you very much, if elected. No, but I'm serious about this, guys. I will follow up on this.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you, Janet. She's timing me. Oh, God, she's timing. All right, I will be brief. This is no reflection on Dick. In fact, Dick and I have met, we've talked, and obviously I feel really guilty that I have trouble with this. Dick, would you step out of the room so I have less trouble? Look, what I want to do is really try this for a year in terms of fighting for each board member, because there are a lot of things you've expressed as what your needs are, what you want done, and you want action on things, and I'm committed to that. I'm also committed to, I really want to see CA as being relevant. I know, that's not, again, a negative, but more relevant. I want to see people respect us as board members. I want to see people respect the staff, and I want to see CA respected as an entity. I think that's very important. We've got to achieve that. I also want to see some exciting programs that we can be having. Dennis and I were talking about some when we met before. I want to see all of us involved in making very positive changes so that we do even more for our residents. We get the boards involved. we get our, as Lynn kept saying, our stakeholders include the business community as well as our residents and people that live and work here. I have some ideas how we can begin to make changes immediately in addition to the mics. And I want to see everybody involved in that. And if elected, I will talk about one idea right away as to what I want to see. So I'm just excited about it. I have had a lot of roles in terms of chairing things, in terms of vice chair, in terms of janitor, in terms of a lot of things. And I just am excited about it, and I really want to work with you guys so that we make a really significant difference, and work with Andy and work with Dick. I want to thank, well, I'm not going to thank you for your service yet because you may win. Then you'll thank me for my service. So that's about it. Any questions, guys?
Any questions? Dick?
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to be your vice chair for the past year. It's been a very rewarding experience, and I've done the best I can. I hope you're happy with what I've done. I've had three priorities. One of them is transparency, another is accountability, and I guess the third one is collegiality. I guess like a lot of you, I've been very concerned about the number of closed meetings we've had that did not need to be closed. And I've advocated for the release of closed meetings when closure was unjustified. I've urged closer cooperation with the villages and better communications with the community at large. And while I think very highly of our staff, I think we've got a terrific staff. I recognize that there have been some times when board direction has been ignored or slow walked, and I have fought to get these issues back on track. I've also been very vocal about the need for the board to examine the recent CBA debacle and demand that there be an appropriate response. Most important, I've made my primary task to help the board find common ground on issues we face. I've consulted frequently with fellow board members, make sure everyone's viewpoints are given full consideration. And I've sought out compromises that can get everyone's support. As a result, I think we've become much more effective in serving the Columbia community. I'm asking for your vote, and I promise that I will seek your advice and listen closely to what you have to say, and then I'll continue to strive for transparency, accountability, and collegiality. And regardless of how this turns out, I'll do the best I can to move things along. Thank you.
Any questions? Alan, do you have any?
Yeah, not for Dick specifically, but I have a question about the process.
Sure.
We've in the past had some static around. I mean, obviously, we all know the vote is secret in terms of who voted for whom, but as to whether the numbers on the vote was 4-6 or 3-7 or whatever. And I just want to make sure that my position is clear that we should know what the vote was, even if we don't know who voted for whom.
I don't think that's necessary.
I think according to our policy, any board member is allowed to look at the votes afterwards. And I think that's, I think policy says something.
Well, maybe I'll look for myself. That would
Okay, Renee already voted for herself, so that's one. If we've got competition.
Once you cast your vote, just please fold it and hold on to it. We'll be around to pick it up.
I was going to run for chair, but I just don't know anything about it.
Janet, where's that bag?
Sweets for the sweet.
I knew we had a reason for all this food. You have chocolate chip in it?
Wait a minute. Over here, I have this chip. Oh, my God. Okay.
No ballots in there. No ballots in there already, right? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'll be back, man.
Because I can't do this.
Raise your hand if you're ready.
Oh.
I only have the chair.
Vice chair.
Alan, did you vote?
My vote's been sent in, and I got a little sticker that said, I voted, and it's sitting on my surface.
Thank you.
Oh, lucky you.
Automatic reply.
No?
How about you? Congratulations.
Someone must have.
Hey, Dick.
You know what it might
Dick, can you second his nomination to be chair? Didn't you? Didn't you second his nomination to be chair?
No, he made the
I
nomination.
made
No,
that.
I made the, oh.
He made it and I seconded.
Oh, I nominated, you're talking about.
I
I'm getting
second
confused.
Andy's
I don't-
nomination.
Nobody seconded anything. I don't.
No. Rocky.
Nominations do not need to be seconded.
Andy's nomination.
I'm getting all confused.
Jump right in.
I thought you were talking about the chair. I'm like, I did.
know Andy,
Okay,
I've
well, I
worked with him
did.
for years.
I don't care.
I have no doubt about his ability.
So anyway, that's the big test.
This is just all.
Yes.
Okay. Can't say. Congratulations, Judy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jenny.
Okay.
Want to see here?
No, I don't want to see. Thank you.
I warmed it for you.
Oh, jeez.
What was the result?
That was
You
one
have
of
to
them.
pass, you have to pass on the,
Oh, can I please
holder.
thank the
30
board
seconds.
and
The 30 seconds.
Dick, I want to thank you for your, it was actually more than a couple of years service.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that first year.
I also want to say that, and we've both talked about this, that I know we'll be working closely together, so thank you.
Sure.
I've learned a lot from you. Thank you.
I'd also really like to thank Dick for his service. Your passion, your commitment to this organization and to the community is so evident, and the time and energy that you've put in is very, very much appreciated.
Yes.
Thank you very
I
much.
second that, absolutely.
All right, I think we give him
Dick's treat tonight.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
I mean, I enjoyed working with Dick as my vice chair, and I'm still going to talk to him and still meet with him. 'Cause,
Oh, yeah, I'll be talking to you.
yeah, 'cause it's a good sounding board. Appointments to committees. Let me ask this. Okay, we have an audit committee. Dick would like to serve on the audit committee, and Rafi would like to serve on the audit committee. Is there anyone else who would like to serve on the audit committee?
It's not as boring as it sounds.
I know, he's looking at me.
No. If not, I am willing to serve on the audit committee. I go to all the meetings anyway. Board have a problem?
Can you serve?
I was gonna say, is that a conflict of interest?
I don't know.
I don't see how.
If not, we need somebody else.
Can I say something about the audit committee?
Thank you.
Jackie is phenomenal as a staff person. There's some really good people on the audit committee, outside people. They're actually fantastic. So it's a really great committee. I just want to spend the time. I'm on it, so I want to get off it, mainly because of Jackie. No, I'm kidding. But it's just a great committee to be on and really nice people, and you learn a lot. And I'd like to encourage somebody to serve on it. It's a valuable committee.
And we really, really need a third person right now.
And generally, that, as most of you know, that's one committee where would greatly appreciate someone with a financial background, some.
I hear you.
They don't meet
Can I
that
say
often.
The reason I'm kind of pushing this one in particular is the rule in the committee is that the majority of the audit committee board has to be board members. And my problem is right now I have 2 non-board members, and so I definitely need 3.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Renee is going to serve. All right, risk management. Who would like to serve on risk management? Shari?
That's what I wanted to do.
And wow, got lots of people who want to serve on risk management.
Well, we're not on other committees.
Yeah. Would it be okay if we chose the 3 people who weren't on? Lynn, Shari, and Nancy. Rafi, do you have a problem?
And then actually, the 2 committees I thought that I would like to serve is the risk management and the audit committee. So it would have been, because for 30 some years, I was the chair of the risk management of Columbia Association. I've seen on the other side of the table, I've sat there and I've gone through a lot. So I think that having that experience and working with the staff and the board, I thought that it might be a little easier on me, as well as that my knowledge may be able to benefit the organization.
Actually, we could.
Can you put 4 on?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We could probably put more people on that
I
committee.
don't see any reason why not.
Yeah.
So that solves it.
So, Renee, do you want to also be on it? Or?
I would love to be. That's what I wanted to do.
We put
So
5 on?
what if we put Lynn, Nancy, Sherry, Rafia,
I mean, if
and,
it's too many, I'll drop. It doesn't matter.
and Renee?
You're going to put how many on there?
All of us, we're having a party.
Oh, it's a
Rob?
quickie meeting. It's a lot of people. I'll drop out.
Wait.
Nancy, if you want to, I can withdraw myself.
You know what?
I think 5 seems excessive.
But yeah, by the way, anybody can attend you can attend the risk management meetings.
Can I ask, before we go
Sure.
any further with that,
Yep.
let me ask it just, since I'm a newbie
Sure.
on the board, not the newest.
Not
Newbie nonetheless. So as a board member, can you go to any of these committee meetings?
Yes, you can go to
Okay,
any
then
of them.
take my name off and I'll just go to the meetings.
Oh yeah,
Back to
you
4.
can go to any of them.
There you go.
Okay, so once again, I'll ask who would like to be on the risk management committee.
I have a
Nancy,
question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you're still getting names, when
Yes.
you're done getting names, I have a question.
Okay. So, Sherry, Nancy, and Rafia. Lynn, do you want to be on or?
Well, Rafi's experience, I think, would be very valuable on it.
But we said 4 could be on it.
Join. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason for you not to be there. And
Were you there last year?
It's usually a commitment.
Then, yeah.
All right. How about Lynn, Nancy, and Sherry? Is that acceptable? And anybody can attend. Remember.
Okay, now,
Excuse me, didn't we expand it to 4 so
Yes.
that those 4 over there?
Oh, and Rafia.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
So we got 1, 2,
now
3,
what about our audit committee? Did Renee drop?
Nice.
No, Renee's going to stay on the audit committee.
Renee's gonna.
I'm gonna
drop
do
You
it.
won't regret it.
I think she's been on enough audit committee. Alan, yes.
Yeah, there are, besides the board members, there are 2 officers of the corporation listed as members.
Yes.
Are those members there because they are required to be there based on the audit committee's charter or our bylaws or anything like that?
I think they are. Milton?
I know that that Susan and I, well, the CFO and the president and the CFO and the president and CEO are voting members of the risk management committee. I don't know. I can't answer whether it's there by documents or deed or bylaws.
And I believe
Well-
one of the officers is the chair.
Well, yes,
of the committee.
the CFO is actually the chair of the committee.
Because I
Well,
remember
first of all, the chair is listed here as the CFO. My real question was around Sherry Faneroff's name is listed there, and it's listed there because she's secretary. I've been on the risk management committee, and it makes sense to me to have the general counsel there. I'm not clear why we need the secretary of the corporation there unless that's a position that's mandated by the bylaws.
if I may say, it's very, very important for the risk management committee to have CS General Counsel present, because the General Counsel deals with a lot of the legal issues we are dealing at the risk management committee. So,
Well, that's why I said that. So it seems to me that shouldn't say the secretary. It's whoever's the general counsel ought to be the member.
okay, the General Counsel.
Yeah, we should probably put general counsel there. Alan, I did look. Yes, the chief financial officer and the CEO are automatically on the committee.
But not the
No,
secretary.
not the secretary.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, BOC, and we like to divide this up among all the board members.
I have something I'd like
Yep.
to say
Yeah,
about BOC.
Sure.
I think it's a mistake to do it quarterly. I would like to return to monthly. If we need a vote or whatever, I just think it's a mistake to do it that far out. Too much happens and things change, and we should work more efficiently by meeting monthly.
Second.
I'll agree with that too.
Well, the other thought that I had talked with one of the other people is that we actually talk about the agendas at the work sessions, at the end of the work sessions, as a board.
Andy, if I may, I don't have a vote, but trying to create an agenda at a work session is not a good strategy, really. You
Okay.
need to have a separate meeting where you can focus on that particular.
All right. Yes. Sorry.
All right. While I might agree with that, especially since our meetings run so long, we don't want to do this at 11 or 11:30 at night. However, if you do it monthly, you can come up with a draft. You can review the draft at 9:30 or 10 o'clock as an item that's on the agenda every single time.
Okay.
And at that time, you also need a segment that says new business. So anything that comes up that is of a pressing concern can be put in there, can be debated. So that's why you need like a 20-minute segment to review the proposed agenda, and then also have a segment for new business. I think that would be much more effective for our work here.
All right. So what if we do this? So what if we have a little task force of people who are interested to come up with the suggestions for by our May 23rd meeting, come up with a list of suggestions for the board to make types of changes like that. I mean, let get it out of,
Sorry, can you be more specific? I'm not following.
Oh,
Could I add? Go ahead.
sure. I mean, Jenny?
Yeah, could I add to that?
Sure.
Yeah. Because we were talking about this. One of the things would be you and a lot of people have been talking about changes you want in the board, the way the board functions. And one way to do that, was Andy's talking about, is sort of an ad hoc committee that would limit themselves to 2 changes to start. I know that sounds maybe like you want to do everything at once, but to get it done in time to send it out to the entire board, what your suggestion is and how you go about doing it, what the timeline would be, et cetera, completely thought out, so that the board could vote at our next meeting on this is the change we're going to have as a board. So you limit yourself to 2 tasks. You may have 20 tasks, you could put them in, to be dealt with later on the list so it doesn't get, you don't forget it. But the idea is an ad hoc committee with somebody like, I think Nancy would be phenomenal to chair it, and there are others could volunteer to work with Nancy if Nancy's agreeable to that, and others would work with her for this specific task, so you get a deliverable by May 20th, and we act on it May 23rd. And it could include this, how we go about, well, I'm not going to tell you what it could include, but limit it to 2 things, and it's well thought out, and we get action right away.
And then we move on to the things below.
Right, and then you can certainly a list, because there's a list of things that people.
Everybody, and that everybody has a role in sending Nancy, if this is agreeable, a list, and we all get to see it so we can add to it.
Yes.
But the action thing is limit yourself to when you get together as an ad hoc committee to 2. You just vote. These are the 2 we're going to deal with. Because if you try and do more than that, you're not going to get anything done. Or limit yourself to 1.
Renee?
I know people here, I think, should serve on it that have been coming up with all these ideas. So.
So I'm okay with that. My only comment is that the next Operations Committee meeting is June 3rd, which is before a board meeting. So should we appoint 2 people to go?
We should definitely appoint someone for the June
To that meeting?
3rd meeting, because we're going to have
And
to have the
then
June 3rd.
That'll
even
give
if we
the
do.
ad hoc committee time to
Yeah.
wrestle with whatever.
Right.
What approach they're going to use.
Right.
So, do I have 2 volunteers? Okay, so 2 different things. One, do I have 2 volunteers who can serve on the BOC for June 3rd? Because we'll definitely have a BOC meeting.
You better go
You're
anyway.
on already.
So
Sorry.
I'll go.
Oh, okay.
We'll let Nancy go because she wants to be on that committee.
How about Nancy and Lynn?
That's fine.
All right.
I have a question, Andy.
All right, and then, yes, Alan, then the next is the task force.
Well, that's my question is about this task force. I'm not clear whether the task force is making recommendations for changes to how we do the BOC, or whether this has become expanded to any change that has to do with the board, which might not be a change about the BOC.
Yes.
Any change that.
To help the board
Well,
function.
Right.
okay, so my concern,
Okay, let me put it this way: to help the board in operating. That's.
I get, okay, I hear that, but then my question is, we have a more immediate,
Right.
that committee might decide that one of the top 2 things is not the BOC, but we still have the question of how to handle the BOC.
Right. That's my question.
Well, maybe.
So can we just say that for the next,
A task force to decide how many BOC meetings we have. Just take a vote and
Right.
figure it out. And
Right.
it's ridiculous.
We have to do that at the next meeting.
Well,
We
Yeah,
could
we can do it at the next meeting.
rule. It's okay. We could do it.
All right. How about the task force, at least to start
Well, it's,
on
or ad
changes?
hoc committee is maybe any
Yeah.
less.
So who would like to? Nancy, you gonna?
Nancy's
Win the
doing
chair?
it. Nancy.
The ad hoc?
I'd be happy to.
Who else would like to serve with Nancy? Janet, Lynn, and Sherry. Now you're.
Am I not allowed to do
No.
anything as vice chair? Thank
You can attend their meeting. You can attend.
Nancy, let me know where you're going to be.
No.
Well,
Who's
I-
going to be on it?
I would like to just ask if someone, you're creating this ad hoc committee, would someone just write down the charge of this committee, and if it's going to be a timeline to it, so that it can be some structure, you just don't have this committee out there going on indefinitely.
Well, that, okay, I speak for myself, that wasn't the intent. The intent was to come up with 2 things by a certain date, and all of us maybe contribute to what other things they'd want to do. And then this board decides whether they want to continue the committee for 2 more. It's not like it's what, I know you guys have an aversion to subcommittees that go on and on and on. So this would be just, maybe it would end in 6 months and have accomplished 6 tasks or something like that, where we improve our functioning. And then that's it for a while. Take a break.
Okay.
Renee.
Is I know you don't like subcommittees that
I
keep
don't know
going
about
on.
subcommittees and subways and subway sandwiches.
I like
but-
Subway better than Subway.
Anyways, okay, so I'm okay with the subcommittee or the ad hoc committee, whatever. But I'm also concerned about the continuity of the board functioning while they come up with ideas. So my motion, or actually Nancy's motion, is that we have board operations committee meetings once a month. I'm going to say in the interim until you ladies come up with your ideas to bring back to the board. If one of those ideas is to change the operations committee to something else, I'm fine with that too. But I want to know that there's some consistency for some time period, preferably over the next several months, until we have those ideas passed and approved, presented and approved. Does that make sense?
Well, that's why we're limiting our scope initially
Right.
to 2 issues.
And as soon as you come
And
back
then
with them.
once we do that, then we can hopefully continue
Right.
on other issues that need to be changed.
Right. But
And what are
all
the
I'm
two
saying
issues?
is that until everybody agrees to
That's
those.
what we need to talk about, to see what are the 2 priorities
Right.
for this particular group. We have to talk about it. We can't talk right off the top of our
Would
heads.
it be board operations committee?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay, so that would, how we're going to set up how we're going to develop the agendas for the meetings.
And how about how we're going to make the meetings more effective?
Okay,
And we'll just address those 2 things initially.
and what would be the timeline?
I think we have to give at least, in terms of the cycle, we need at least 2 work sessions because we have to
Well,
talk through.
if you could come up with
Come up with one
your-
for the first work session and
two-
come up.
Right, 2 things by May 20th, so we can have it the 23rd, so we can talk about them on the 23rd.
We're really overcomplicating this. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I feel so bogged down already that it's. I think there are so many little tweaks we can make to this board, not just 2. There are probably 25 that we could make in the snap of a fingers that would improve our operations that we can do in 2 weeks. I
Do you think you can? I mean, does the
Okay,
committee
I mean,
think
I
they
might be
can?
exaggerating with 25, but I think there are at least some low-hanging fruit that we can knock off right away to speed things up, keep things moving, and then we can worry about the bigger issues that might require a lot more time and discussion. And so let's streamline our process so that we can free up the time to have the conversations and the discussions that we need to talk about important things and not waste it talking about nothing.
Thank you.
All right, how about, you still have the deadline, you still have the deadline on the 20th.
On the 20th, we will have something to
Yes,
present to the
to
board
present
for
to
the
the board
23rd.
on the 23rd. Okay,
20th
May,
of May.
right. And put together your lists.
Maybe
Right.
4 things.
Might be 20 things.
I'm not going to limit it with
Yeah.
a number. If I come up with 5
All right.
things that
So,
we can knock
so
out
the
in
focus
5
of the committee.
minutes.
So this committee is an ad hoc committee. It's a short-term committee. It's going to come up with a list of changes that it's going to propose to the board in terms of how the board operates.
Exactly.
See
It
who's
says
on
li-
it.
And it's going to
Janet,
be
Lynn, Sherry, Nancy, Ginny, right?
no, Lynn, Nancy, Lynn, Shari, and Janet.
And anybody else that wants to?
Anybody else?
Anybody else can come. It's just I want to keep the chair and the vice chair off the official.
That's fine.
I just think it would be better to not do that. All right, so we have that. Everybody agree?
Andy,
Yes.
who are the 2 members that are going to be on the first BOC?
Nancy and Lynn.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to liaison committees. You know, we have a number of advisory committees. So let me ask, Aquatics Committee, who would like to be our liaison?
Alan? Alan?
Alan, you're it. Climate.
Thank you.
I'd like to. Are you
Any-
going to tell me I can't do this now?
Ginny, okay. Art Center. Janet, oop. Golf and Greens. Lynn, okay. Health and Fitness. Dick. IT, I'll do IT.
Oh, I have a suggestion for you too, Andy.
The International Multicultural Advisory Committee.
I'll do it.
Alan?
You want
Renee?
You can do it.
We both can do.
Oh, Ralph?
There's
Oh,
enough
only
committee.
one? It's okay, then
Yeah.
I don't need to.
You
I
sure?
already have two, that's fine.
Okay.
Renee?
You go ahead.
Who's doing it?
I am.
Renee.
Renee, all right. Millennial,
I'll do mine.
Shari. Senior Advisory,
I'll do it.
Nancy.
Oh, stop laughing.
Teen and Middle School.
Nice, Milton.
Who would like to do teen and middle school?
I'll do it.
You do? Okay.
I like any day of the week. No problem there.
Tennis.
I'll do it.
Nancy.
Say the name out loud, please.
Oh, okay. Renee's going to do teen and middle school. Nancy's going to do tennis. Watershed. Oh,
Unless anybody else wants to, I'll continue with Watershed unless there's somebody else who wants to pick that up.
thank you, Shar. All right. Okay, appointment of officers of the Columbia Association.
Okay, I
Wait a
sent
minute,
an
sorry,
email
I'm sorry,
earlier
I'm
that
sorry, I missed. Yeah, I missed Inter Arbor Trust.
Yeah,
So we have two people.
I sent an email.
Yep.
I think we should have nominations, not just assume we have two people.
So who would like to serve on the board of directors, the Inter Arbor Trust?
Andy, before you go,
Yeah.
this is how we handled it last year. And it just basically, if you read
Right.
that.
So we have Lynn and Janet. Anyone else interested? All
I'll
right.
nominate Renee.
Renee's not.
You woke her up.
Yeah.
No, no, thank you. But it's a good idea.
All right. So I will move that we appoint Lynn and Janet.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Oh, wait a minute, Alan was saying something.
He said aye.
Oh, okay.
All right, officers of the Columbia Association, President, Vice President, Treasurer, Assistant Secretary.
Who's the secretary now?
So remember, the Assistant Secretary is because of the license, right? Golf
Yes.
course.
We
It's
have
the
that
liquor license,
liquor
that's
license.
why. Whoever signs the liquor license has to be an officer of the corporation, so
And who is
Was it
that?
last year?
Donna.
Same.
Don Van Duzen.
Don Van Dusen.
Don Van Dusen.
He's on the liquor license.
Yeah,
Yes, he's
he's listed.
the assistant secretary.
All right.
Andy?
so-
I'd like to move
Andy?
to add general counsel as an officer of the board.
Alan? Okay.
Janet.
Well,
Yep.
sounds like somebody beat me to something, but that wasn't what I was going to say. But if you want to follow through on that,
Right. I would like to follow through on that. Just a second.
I'm not sure where we are.
Okay. Janet made a motion to add the general counsel as officer of the corporation. Is there a
As general
second?
counsel, question, is that as an additional officer position or taking one of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, assistant secretary positions?
Does it matter?
I mean, we have the ability to add officers. I mean, like we
Yeah, just.
But why,
Is there a,
she's no longer the secretary, so
No, she's no longer.
do,
there a reason?
Well, if going back in history, the general counsel was not the secretary of the corporation until I got here, based on the records. Because when I first got here, as you have heard of, generally the places I've been, the general counsel was the secretary of the corporation. The general counsel had, looking at the records in the past, the secretary has been Chick, and this goes back to 2003. And as I said, the records show that in May 14, 2015, the general counsel was listed as the secretary because I approached her And I asked, and I said, generally, places I've been, the general counsel is the secretary, and she agreed to do it. This time around, I had the conversation, and she was not willing to do it, and I couldn't find any place where it said that general counsel has to be the secretary.
So we do not have a secretary now?
Yes, we have, Susan is a vice president and secretary. And that has happened in the past, where the vice president has been also the secretary.
When has that
Actually,
happened?
Milton, I do remember for years, CA's general counsel was the general secretary, and I was the assistant secretary because in the absence of hers, then I was to do that. So always the CFO was the assistant secretary. And one of the reasons I thought it was the general secretary also, because there was time when we wanted to make sure we take advantage of the privileged communication of the client and attorney. So that's why for years, before even Sherry, all those officers were the secretary. Those general counsels were the secretary. So I'm surprised you're saying that nobody has.
We just went back to 2003. In 2003, the general.
I can remember, as long as I can remember, always the general counsel was the secretary. Now, there was time when we have all the uproar where the Chico Road Hammer even became acting president, and there was the whole one time where we had that situation. But normally, the general counsel was the secretary.
We have to go back, because right now, I'm right in front of me, I have 2003, general counsel was not, 2005, it was not, 2011 was not, 2014 was not, and 2015, yes.
Well, I think actually we have a slightly different problem. Because if a person doesn't want to serve as an officer,
Right.
I have a really difficult time trying to appoint, because if they don't want to do the duties,
I think we ought to table that idea for a little bit. I agree with.
We can table that idea. You either decide tonight or you don't, but we can't table it.
we can change the officers at any time technically.
Yeah, but will we know? Come on.
Right. But I don't know. I don't know. I just can't appoint someone who doesn't want to do the work.
Circumstances, I would say no.
Is
We
there
tried to appoint Renee. It didn't work.
a relationship in terms of who steps into what role if the president, for some reason, is not able to function? So the list of officers then have responsibilities to step up in various ways.
Right.
That is information that the board does not currently have.
That's right.
So can we get that information?
Susan is
The only thing that as a president and CEO, in my absence, regardless of the reason, Susan acts on my behalf.
And am I correct in assuming that if you and Susan are unable to act, then Mary Lynn Schwartz steps in as treasurer?
Well,
assumes
it generally is
responsibility?
my understanding when I first got here, as I've been other places, I haven't gone down that far. I just said I had to designate someone to act in my absence, and I designated Susan as the vice president and CEO.
Right, so is that in something that is governed by our governing documents? Or are those guidelines that have been established?
I don't think it's in there anywhere.
I was just told that I had to
Or we
designate
don't know.
someone. I was just told that I had to designate someone to act in my absence.
All right, because my memory is similar
Right,
to
actually,
Ralphie's.
Milton is correct. Many times when Maggie or Pat Kennedy or all those 4 different presidents I served under, they were gone. Either it could be one of the officers. It doesn't have to be. If I was out as a CFO, then it was Rob Goldman, or if Rob Goldman and I both were out. So it was always the choice of the president, who in his or her absence decided which officers to take over. So, but normally there were 2 standing. which was Rob Goldman or myself, or
So there were two
Right.
that were designated,
Yes.
not one.
not one.
And that was by the choice
The
of
president's
president.
choice. That is the president's choice.
All right, and is that written down somewhere?
I don't think so. This one never defined.
Okay, again, if I may.
Yes.
It's from CA, thanks Joel, from CA's charter, section 4.05, it says vice presidents. Vice president singular, or vice presidents plural, at the request of the president in his or her absence or during his or her inability to act, shall perform the duties and exercise the function of the president, and when so acting shall have the powers of the president, period. Then there's other language. Presently,
Is there anything similar under treasurer?
No,
No.
It's just the vice president.
it's similar, I mean, presently we only have one vice president.
Right. And that's the difference now.
Right.
Because at that time, Rob Goldman was also vice president from operational side.
Right.
So that
That's what the
Right,
difference
Yes,
it was,
that's
it was
the
a
difference.
different
That's what it
setup.
was.
It was a
Okay.
different
Vice
setup.
President.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
All right, so let's go back to the original question, which was appointing the general counsel. All right, any further discussion? I'll take a vote on that.
No one seconded.
Well,
Oh, no one
was
seconded
it seconded?
No, it wasn't. Anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Nancy seconded it. Alan, discussion, you?
Yeah, I mean, we could do it, but if the person says, I decline, I don't think we have the power to require somebody to be an officer of ours.
I don't think we do either. It's not in any job description or anything.
Just one
Sure.
question. Is anybody going to be sitting in that seat as our counsel if we need a legal opinion on anything? I mean, I'm a little.
Sherry doesn't give us legal opinions sitting in that
that's
chair.
true. Well,
She's very clear about that.
Well, okay, let me put it another way. It's nice to have a general counsel sitting and listening to the board meetings when issues are raised and can give us an opinion or advice later.
But that person doesn't need to be an officer.
I'm just wondering if anybody's going to be there.
She's acting more as a parliamentarian in that role when she comes here. I mean, in a
So, I
sense,
mean, are
'cause
we
she
going to
answers
have that
questions.
next?
We still have general counsel. Sherry is still the general counsel
We'll
of the
be
organization.
here at our board meetings.
Well,
Okay.
my understanding is that it's up to Milton to decide
Yes.
what senior staff he wants at board meetings,
Correct.
Yes.
and they're all there at his direction, not at ours.
You're right.
Right, it's
You're right.
Milton's choice.
And
So-
it should be.
So the issue is then whether she's secretary or not is what we're voting on. And she doesn't want to be.
She's not up to be secretary.
What?
She does
She's not up for secretary.
Right, she does not want to be secretary.
So
Sorry.
this vote would say she has to be? I mean, what are we doing here?
The vote is to add a new
Just trying to get
officer
clarity.
called general counsel.
If I
Yes.
Trying to get
I have, there's been a resolution submitted that covers all the officers. There's a position of president and CEO. There's vice president and secretary. There's treasurer and assistant secretary.
So we have the secretary covered.
Yes, we
Yes.
have the
There was a motion to amend then.
Right.
Right. To tell the
Was it-
general counsel she has to be, the general counsel has to be secretary, whether it's a he
No,
or she.
I didn't get that. It was
What is the
in,
purpose of, what exactly?
Lynn, what like?
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand the purpose of the motion, and again, I don't know. I don't know the reason for it. I think, at this time, we would be foolish. There may be unintended consequences to whatever actions we take. And not knowing what we're even doing or why, it just seems to me imprudent to continue.
All right,
I'll withdraw my motion. Clearly, I do not have the support of the board.
all right, Shari.
However, Ginny brings up an important point, which is that the board has always had someone function as a parliamentarian.
Yes.
So questions that need to be referred to the parliamentarian not only have to do with our process, but our rules and our policies. So if there is no one who has that background, someone needs to be appointed to be present who has familiarity with the board's policies and the board's procedures.
Well, as I said earlier, the general counsel will still, the intent is still to have the general counsel and the vice president and CFO to attend the board's work sessions and the board meetings.
That answers my question, okay.
Okay.
But that's different from parliamentarian. Anyone can be parliamentarian.
I haven't seen a parliamentarian on here since I've
It
gotten here.
doesn't have to be, we've had
Yeah,
other people
hasn't been one.
function as parliamentarians. They are here to help the board. That's why they're in the room. So I just want to clarify that. They're not here in a legal role. They are here to assist the board if questions come up about procedure or questions come up about what the board's prior policy is on a particular issue. So
Right.
this is a good time to be facing that. If you want to examine that, go back in history and take a look at that. That's something that our ad hoc committee can also take a look at and make a recommendation.
That would be good.
I think
Okay.
maybe we are getting confused. I think Milton made it very clear to me that, yes, the general counsel will be here to assist us, to give us what we need, and not necessarily the general counsel has to be the secretary.
Right.
As far as the required officers are there, the president, the secretary, the treasurer, and so forth. So then we are, so not to confuse, we are saying, yes, the general counsel will be present to help us with the information which we would need.
Okay, so
Right.
let's go ahead.
I'd
with
like to get in the queue,
officers.
please.
Alan?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that motion was removed.
Yes.
I have a question about, are all of these officer positions required by our bylaws or our liquor license?
So
Yes.
you're required to have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. Okay, all corporations. If you look at your village, the village manager is actually both your secretary and your treasurer. Okay, and the chair of the village board is the president. So yeah, all corporations have those. They can be the same person, but technically they all have those offices. Does that
So we
make
don't need
sense,
to have a
Alan?
vice president?
You don't need a vice president. You can have a vice president.
But if a vice president is listed in our bylaws, then I guess we do need to have it.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do
I'm-
because it's in our bylaws.
Okay. So I get your point. I know that on many boards, people take dual roles. I guess I'm well, two things. One is I would like to hear from whoever put this resolution together why we needed a separate secretary before, but now one person can satisfy both roles.
Alan, I'm the one to put together, and as I said earlier, when 2015 was the first opportunity as a president and CEO, I submitted this resolution. Prior to then, I had conversation with Sherry, and I said, Sherry, generally where I've been, the general counsel had been the secretary. And she said, I had not had that role in the past, but after talking to her, she agreed to. And she has been, that general counsel has been the secretary since I've been here. This time around, we had the conversation, and she did not want to do it. And I said, fine, then I'll proceed as we have done in the past, where we've had a vice president serve as a dual role, vice president and secretary.
Okay, that last part I hadn't gotten before. Thank you.
Dick?
I don't know why we're spending all this time on this. This is a formality. This has no practical meaning whatsoever, except that just because we have to have officers, here are the officers, why don't we just approve this? What is the problem?
Is there a motion to appoint the officers of the Columbia Association as specified? Dick, is there a second?
Yes.
Lynn? Any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Janet is abstaining.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I've heard people complain about our meetings going too long. And this is the kind of junk that we just don't really need to
But sometimes people need to, number one, ask questions and fully understand. So as long as we're talking about business and we're not just wasting time in everybody's mind, I think it's fruitful.
And nobody knows the history here, Dick.
Okay, so just
We've learned.
see the schedule of work sessions and meetings. Please put them on your calendar. Okay?
Don't we need to approve them?
It's the second and fourth.
Yes, same for. Is there a motion to then approve the work sessions and meetings? Dick moved, Shari seconded.
No, I have a question. Point of work.
I do too.
Yep.
Are there any sessions that are scheduled for board development?
No, we're going to work on those. These are the official meetings that get posted for the public.
I understand it. This is the board's calendar.
Yes.
So I am asking whether there are any board development sessions that have been put in the calendar.
At the moment, no.
So this is really the board calendar for the public.
This is the board calendar for the public. The development sessions generally have been done by Doodle Pool. Ask people what dates they're available.
Do we want to specify that we will have at least one board development session?
I think we should have at least 3 board development sessions. But I'm willing to put that off to the task force to figure out how many board development sessions, but I think it would be a really good idea. I think it would be a really good idea that we have some board development work sessions. All right, so Dick moved and Sherry seconded.
I have discussion.
Yes, discussion.
Okay, so my concern is that we talk a lot about how crowded our meetings are, et cetera, and I do believe there are things we can do to streamline, et cetera, but I also just want us to note that basically we're saying for the equivalent of 2.5 months, because we do not have meetings, because we got the whole month of August, we've got the half of each month of November and December, and we've got this meeting where we need to have it, but we're not getting work done, we're just getting organized. So that's the equivalent of 2.5 months that we're not having meetings. I get that it would be too difficult to have a meeting in the end of November and December due to holiday times, but I really just want us to take a firm look at whether not having any meeting in August really serves us. It causes a big gap between July and September. Things do happen in the summer. I would like us to reconsider that.
Milton?
Alan, I'll just make a plea on behalf of the staff and also the other organizations. We need some time off. We have a lot we do, and the county government is much larger than we are. They take the month of August off. We need a step away. I believe the board needs to step away. The staff needs to step away. And August is a good month. It's in the middle of the summer, in the middle of vacation season, and that was my original recommendation. I thank the board for following it up to now, and I please ask you to continue to follow it.
All right, any further discussion? I'll take the vote. All those in favor of the proposed schedule? Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Andy?
Yep.
There's been a change here that
Yes.
I didn't anticipate. It says work sessions and meetings will begin at 7 p.m.
Yes, what does the board
That was
think?
a change to this year. Does anybody
Actually,
have
we
anything
voted
to
that down
say
last
about
year,
that?
So I do have something to say about that.
Well, we should talk.
Last year we voted on 7 or 7:30.
Right.
7 lost,
Right.
and then we had every meeting at 7 anyway. So if we're going to vote on it, then let's stick to what we're voting on. If everyone wants to switch it to 7, then switch it to 7. But I'll probably be calling in at the beginning of it.
My sense about starting at 7, if we're going to move this up, then we have to end earlier.
I agree.
I mean, I am actually not willing to sit here until 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Once again, it was my recommendation. Yes, Janet, I remember that, but I said that was a different year. We were trying.
Last year, and halfway through the year, it switched to 7 miraculously.
It was my recommendation, as I said, and I was saying that if we could keep it between a 7 and 10, and we wouldn't have to go beyond that. If you look at the agendas, we've been trying to keep it within that time frame. The reason why we started having 7 is because the agendas were getting larger.
Here's the thing, Milton. Your recommendation must have gone to Andy, and Andy implemented it without consulting the board. That's my point here, and that's the thing I have an issue with, because we had a vote on it a few months before that, and it was voted down.
Right.
So that's where I have the problem. Not that we're starting at 7, but that the board voted against 7, and then it got moved anyway.
Right, but let me just say that it wasn't actually totally my decision. We voted at the BOC. It was at the BOC where the times were changed.
Okay, well, I don't ever remember hearing a communication regarding that. All of a sudden, it just turned to 7. So no one ever communicated this out.
Yeah, and okay, then that's.
I mean, the communication, number one priority for this organization. It is pathetic.
Renee.
So, would it suit the board members better if the meeting started at 7:30?
That's a question for the whole board.
No, but I'm saying before we make a motion, is 7:30 a better time?
Can we comment?
Sure. Yeah.
I think one of the concerns is we have residents speak out, and we never know how many people are going to come. If we start at 7:30 with residents speak out, we could be talking about 8:15, 8:30 by the time we start our meeting, which means we're going to be here later. And then if we have a closed meeting for some emergency after that, it's even later, where if we start at 7, you maybe start the meeting at 7:30 or, so that's sort of, and also people that want to attend our meetings, how late do you want them staying? It's sort of, how do you?
I don't have a problem.
No, I
starting
think
at
we
7.
need to vote.
I have a problem with the process that.
I agree.
got us there.
So that's why I'm sort of saying I think the 7 seems to work for the public and for us. But I agree with Janet. Let's make up our minds and stick to it.
Dick.
Unless no.
As I recall, one of the considerations was that Greg had that commute up from Washington, and courtesy to Greg, we said we'd hold the meetings at 7:30. I don't think we can have it two ways. If we want to get out of here early, and particularly as Jay pointed out, when we have the resident speak out, which is rather flexible in time, I seriously suggest 7 o'clock as our meeting time. And I agree with Janet that the communication on that was sloppy, but and we gotta watch that in the future. But I would like to hold meetings starting at 7.
Well, how about we?
Why don't we just vote?
That's right. How about we vote?
Yeah, just vote.
All right. So, is there a motion?
I'll move so.
Is there a second? Ginny. So Dick moved and Ginny seconded to hold the meetings workstation starting at 7. Any further discussion? All those in favor? So we have, okay, now I gotta do this. Wow. Okay. Ginny, Dick, Andy, Nancy, right? All those opposed?
Alan.
Okay, Alan, Janet. Abstain. Sorry. And Renee. All right. I think
Then did you put your vote in?
You know, I thought we were doing 7:30 because, again, a lot of the residents couldn't get here.
That's right.
Well, that was short and speak.
All right, looks like it passes.
What was the vote?
4-1-2.
2 opposed.
3, actually 3.
I have to say, while that may be a legal vote, only half the board voted at all.
I can't force people to vote.
June 6th. What?
I get that. For me, it's about the effectiveness of our process, that says something to me about this issue. And when we accept that kind of vote without question and without digging into why that's happening that way, we then can run into trouble.
No, that good point. And I to me, what I'm hearing from the board is the problem is the length of our meetings. If we could somehow get the length of our meetings under control, the starting point.
I would like to point out that we started at 7 and still went
I
to
know.
midnight more than once.
Yes,
So it's not like it's helping shorten the meeting.
No, but we got to figure out a way to shorten the meetings.
Totally
We
agree.
really do.
I totally agree.
And I'm looking to the task force, the ad hoc committee, to come up with some good suggestions. All right, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.